I call Calvin Davis.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I agree with Louise Upston that this is a simple bill. Everyone in the House basically agrees with it. But I do take Sue Kedgley's point that it is a sad day that we are going to be losing this scientific and research asset after 70-odd years of serving New Zealand. Since 1977, it's been our national observatory, and it is a sad day in the aspect that we are going to lose that. Also, Sue Kedgley is correct. Astronomy is one of those subjects in a class that really grabs students' imaginations, and it doesn't take you long if you go into any school, to go into a classroom where you will see planets lined up in order, from Mercury through to Pluto. You'll hear people talking about the moon and how the moon moves around the Earth, and the relationship of the gravity of the sun to all the planets, and how those things all interrelate. We hear kids can talk about the black holes and sunspots and Saturn rings. In fact, today, just on the news, there was astronomers have seen that there's a planet that is travelling so close to a particular sun that it's going to be eaten up over the next 10 million years. Those are the types of learning situations that children really enjoy, and it's really motivating to them, and it gets them into science. And it's unfortunate that that the observatory is being closed because, as Dr. Bessel reported, there's a lack of resourcing for the observatory, and a number of people have brought up today too about the lack of resourcing for science advisors. Now, being a former principal, I can say that in the Taitokoro in the far north there was a lack of advisors, full stop. Science advisors were as scarce as hen's teeth. And even when we did find a science advisor, unfortunately, they had such a huge geographic area to cover. They had, in the Taitokoro, they had over 100 schools. It was almost impossible for any one school to get a science advisor, and that's when there was more than there are now, before they were halved. So science, partly as a result of the lack of advisors, is not a subject that's particularly well taught in schools. As a result, we have kids going through, or students going through into secondary school, and they're not particularly motivated around science. When they have actually been taught science, it's normally electronics, putting batteries and bits of wire together. It's water, and those sorts of things. So because of the lack of students going through and learning science well, they're not going on into university and taking up the science courses in the numbers that we would expect them to take up. And Kaitaia College, in fact, did make mention to me as principal of Kaitaia Intermediate School that pupils were coming through and they actually were lacking in science skills. So also the focus with, and this is moving a bit off the point, but the focus on national standards also, on numeracy and literacy and national standards, actually is a disincentive for teachers to teach science, in that if their performance is going to be measured on how well that their students do in numeracy, in literacy, then they're best suited then to be focusing on those areas and not actually teaching science, not actually taking their students up to the Kato Observatory. Instead, they should be sitting in classrooms and learning about the numeracy and literacy. And so that is a great disincentive to actually broadening the curriculum, and in fact it does narrow it down. It's great though that the observatory does have a big focus on supporting teachers, that teachers are able to come in and check out before they bring their classes up to the observatory, they're able to go and get a bunch of resources that will help them to plan their units. science such as astronomy, it appeals to gifted students. And gifted students are those students who people tend to think that the gifted students are the students that achieve really well, when in fact gifted students tend to underachieve because their needs aren't being met by the school curriculum. Science and astronomy is one of those subjects that really does help gifted students to really get involved in the curriculum, and it's the gifted students who are going to make the big difference in the world. It's them that'll be the scientists, it'll be them that go into the technological courses, and them that actually make the big changes that are really important to the world. So we do have to thank Charles Carter, who back in the 1930s decided to set up this observatory for astronomy. The observatory, has over the years helped. Has been the basis of research. Amateur astronomers, they've been able to conduct their own research, and I believe it was amateur astronomers who first spotted the Shoemaker-Levy asteroid that people followed across the internet and eventually tracked its path, and I think it was the Shoemaker-Levy asteroid that ended up crashing into Jupiter. And these are the sorts of experiences that the Carter Observatory would get kids to be motivated in and to observe. And this is how education outside the classroom really does engage and motivate students into learning. As has been spoken about, it's very disappointing that the $750 million Research and Development Fast Forward Fund was cut. As I've said, it's those people who engage in science and technology that are going to make the breakthrough developments for the world. They're the people who will develop the cures for ailments and diseases. And it's also, as we've heard from Stuart Nash, that the way to grow the productive economy is through investing in research and development. It's not just through having tax cuts as the only way forward for the country. The other aspect of the Carter Observatory is the tourism side of things. Now, tourism is really important to New Zealand's economy. Over $20 billion were brought in through tourism last year. It's great that that this Carter Observatory actually complements the tourism scene in Wellington and in fact all of New Zealand. It adds to Wellington's attractions such as Te Papa and the Karori Wildlife Centre. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, thank you very much.